This week's Parashat Vayishlach, begins with the much anticipated, the much hyped, actually the overhyped meeting between Yaakov and Eisav. Eisav was coming with his 400 men to wage a war against Yaakov, get his revenge for Yaakov getting the Baracha and the Bechorah, but ultimately it turns out to be more of a hug and a kiss, so a little bit anticlimactic. But really, the real dramatic struggle took place the night before, when Yaakov was wrestling with this unknown man. According to most opinions, it was an angel, the angel of Eisav, or maybe Yaakov's upgraded angel once he had taken over the brachot of Eisav. It says the Torah, Vayivater Yaakov levado. Yaakov was by himself. Yaakov had gone back by himself to bring back the pachim ketanim, those small vessels he had left behind. Vayeavek ish imo. And this guy, this figure, this person, this unknown man, unknown angel, starts wrestling with Yaakov adalot hashachar, until the dawn, until the early morning. Vayar ki lo yacholo, and this angel saw that he can't win, he's not prevailing. Vayiga bekaf yerecho, so he gets him, he hits him, he gets Yaakov by the hip area, by the hip socket, by the gida nasher, by the leg, but teka kaf yerech Yaakov, and he hurts him, and Yaakov is going to be limping after this until the sun rises to heal him. Behavako imo, while they were wrestling. This wrestling match led to him getting a strained leg. Says the Gemara, Holin Daf Tzadik Aleph Amud Aleph, and this language of Vayavek, this language of Behavako, it's a language of dust. What's going on here? It's a funny language, wrestling, but Vayavek, but a language of dust. Like, well, what's happening over here? So says the Gemara, according to the opinions of the Rabbanan. For Rabbanan, Hai Behavako, and how did the Rabbanan understand this phrase of wrestling? My Darshibe, what did they learn with this funny language? Midbaile Idach, the Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, they learn like Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Dam Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, melamed shehe'elo avak meragotam ad kisei hakavod. He says, what happened? When Yaakov was fighting with this angel, he was able to uplift behavako. When he's able to lift up the dust, there's an aliyah of the dust all the way up to kisei hakavod, all the way up to Hashem's holy throne in the Shamayim. Beautiful. So Yaakov is fighting, and he gets it all the way up. So I saw a beautiful Dvar Torah in last year's Rabbi Shmuel Zucker's The Rebbe's Table on our parasha. Really unbelievable stuff, focusing on an idea that we find over and over again throughout the story of Yaakov. So in this wrestling match, when Yaakov is fighting the angel, so Melamed says the Gemara, Melamed shehe'elu avak, that he was able to bring up the dust. This language of elu, of aliyah, of going up. Says Rabbi Zucker, throughout the Torah, we see that Yaakov Avinu's life is all about going up. It's a life of aliyah. He actually titles his whole ma'amar, he calls it Yaakov was the vertical yid. Yaakov is the Jew who goes up. So let's take a look at the different stories in Yaakov Avinu's life and maybe develop this idea of what it means to be vertical, what it means to go up, what is aliyah all about. Okay, so we have the famous story in last week's parasha, we have the story of Yaakov's sulam, we have the story of Yaakov's ladder. Says the pasuk, Vayahalom, Yaakov had a dream. Vehine sulam mutzav arza. There was a ladder that's hidden that's on the ground. It's set down below. V'rosho magia shamayim. At the top of the ladder goes all the way up to the heaven. What Chazal tell us, all the way up to the kisei hakavod. Vehine malchei Elohim olim beyordim bo. We have the angels going up and down. So again, we have this vertical idea. The angels are first being olim. We spoke about that a lot in last week's Dvar Torah. They're going up to the heavens. And going up, as Chazal tell us, all the way to kisei hakavod, meaning Yaakov has this ability to get things up to the kisei hakavod, to get things all the way up to Hashem's holy, holy throne. The next morning, Yaakov wakes up and he has to resume his journey to Haran. So the pasuk says last week, Vayisa Yaakov raglav, vayelech arza b'nei kedem. What does he do? Vayisa Yaakov raglav, which we can translate as, he started walking again. He took over his journey, he resumed his journey. But literally it means Vayisa, it means to uplift. He lifted up his feet. When Yaakov's walking, it's Vayisa, it's going up. So what's that all about? And it seems to be that wherever he's going, I mean, right now he's going to Chutz La'aretz, he's going to Haran, he's leaving Israel, yet he still wants to grow spiritually. He still wants to make it an aliyah. I remember hearing a Dvar Torah once from somebody with some divrei chizuk to some of our students at the end of the year before they were going back to the old country. So he says, listen, I want you guys to make aliyah when you go back to America, Canada, England, wherever you're going back to. I want you guys to make an aliyah. And what was the Dvar Torah all about? The Dvar Torah is, I'm not saying aliyah to Israel, that's true too, it's the holiest country to be, but there's an idea that your life should be a life of aliyah, a life of always wanting to go up. So here, even when Yaakov is going to Haran, Vayisa Yaakov raglav, he's lifting up his feet. Yaakov is all about going up. We see so too in our parasha. Fast forward our parasha to that terrible Shem story with Dinah. After the whole story is done, Hashem then tells Yaakov, Vayomer Elohim Yaakov, Kum ale Beit El. Yaakov, okay, the difficulty is over. It's time for you to get up and go up. v'nakum ale Beit El. Again, ale. And then Yaakov turns to his family. V'nakuma v'na'ale Beit El. Again, we're going to stand up, we're going to get up, and we're going to go up. We're going to have an aliyah. Explains Rabbi Zucker. When it comes to the spiritual world and when it comes to the physical world, they're actually totally different planes. They're totally different ways of understanding. They work in different ways. Spiritual versus physical. So he explains as follows. In the spiritual world, everything gravitates upwards. That's like the candlelight trying to flicker up. Everything's about spiritually ascending. Vertically, we're going up. That's down to up. That's the method of the spiritual world. But he says the physical world, the Olam HaGashmi, that's about extending outwards. It's horizontal. I was thinking maybe, this could be the difference between us and the Greeks. We're thinking we're getting closer to Chanukah, so a little bit of Chanukah Torah. We said once in the past regarding the shemen, regarding the oil. What do you do with the physical olives? You go to Greece today. They sell the Greek olives. It's very, very, very a big part of their economy. It's a symbol of the Greek olives. What do they do with the olives? They're eating the olives. Olives, we have the shemen, the oil that comes out of the olives. So the word shemen could be read as shamen. What is shamen? Shamen is fat. It's extending the stomach. It's horizontal. The physical world is all about the horizontal, the shamen. But what do we do on Chanukah? We do something different with the shemen. We light the shemen, and it's true, we do eat the oily donuts in the lot because we have the sufganiyot. We do have our fair of making ourselves shamen, but that's not the main, that's just the custom. The actual mitzvah of Chanukah for the Jewish people is to take the shemen and not make ourselves shamen, but to actually light it and have that spiritual flame, that flickering light that's trying to ascend back up to the Shamayim. Okay, so going back to Rabbi Zucker. So he says, so too when it comes to human beings. When we're alive, when our neshama is still connected to our goof, so what do? We stand upright. We're facing upright, where our head is up into the shamayim. But sadly, when a person passes away, what happens? The neshama leaves. We're left with a goof. We're left with a physical body. The physical body now is symbolically is horizontal. You bury the body horizontal, and the body then decomposes horizontally into the ground. Same halakha when it comes to Shabbat. On Shabbat, there's halakha you can't carry a person. Well, says the Gemara, says Chazal, if the person is alive, chay no said that's small. A person who's alive, you can't carry somebody who's alive because that person's alive. He carries himself, so you would not be chayav on carrying on Shabbat. But if you have a dead body, that would be asur because a dead body that's horizontal. It does not carry itself. Eisav, our parasha, wanted olam hazeh. He wanted the physical world. And that's why back in Parashat Toldot, when Yaakov finally gives him a blessing, Eisav like, you have no blessings for me? You can't even find one blessing? Yitzchak gives him a blessing. What does Yitzchak tell him? Vayan Yitzchak avi, vayomer elav. He tells him, Hineh mishmanei haaretz yeh moshavecha. He tells him, I'm going to give you your land, your abode, your moshavecha. What is it going to be? It's going to be mishamanei haaretz, from the fat of the earth. Meaning the fat, the shamen. Eisav wants the shamen. He wants the physical olam hazeh. And that's true of the descendants of Eisav. We know the Christian world is always known for their colonialism. At least that's what they claim about themselves, which is about expanding horizontally, conquering more territory. We want more olam hazeh. The punishment of the symbol of Eisav. What was the symbol of Eisav? The snake, the nachash. We spoke a lot of times that Eisav's spirit animal, so to speak, would be the nachash, would be that snake, the primordial snake in Gan Eden. So what do we know about the snake? He used to stand upright. But what was his punishment? He lost his legs. And now he becomes that horizontal snake that slithers on the dust, eats the dust, eats the dirt, and he's the most physical of physical, and he has no interest at all in any avodah of the vertical. He has no interest in avodah, spiritual pursuits anymore, because his punishment was, go out there, go eat the dirt, you go horizontal. The nachash is the symbol of the horizontal. But we, Bnei Israel, says Rabbi Zucker, our job is to be the vertical nation. We're supposed to be going up. We climb up the mountain. We ascend Har Sinai to get our Torah. Now, he asked a great question. Why was the Torah given on a mountain? We know Chazal tells us that Har Sinai was the most humble of all mountains. It was a small mountain. So if it's a small mountain, we want humility, so then give it in a valley. I remember we once asked this question in the past. We gave an answer from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, that he says that ultimately the mountain symbolizes having a backbone. We're not haughty, but we know that we're right. We know that we're elevated. We know that there's something behind what we're saying right now. So to be in a valley, to be in a hole, no, that's wishy-washy. We actually know that we're a mountain, but it's a humble mountain. Says Rabbi Zucker, a little bit different based on what we're saying right now. He says the mountain symbolizes the need to have an aliyah, to go up, to have the mindset of being the vertical. To get the Torah, we have to go up. We have to do an aliyah. Actually, what do we call when a person gets an aliyah to the Torah? When a person is called up to the Torah today to read from the portion, it's called an aliyah. We go up to the Torah. And then with the Torah, what do? We lift the Torah up. Sfaradim before, Ashkenazim after we read. What do? Hagba'at Torah. We always lift the Torah up vertically, show everybody the letters of the Torah. When you move to Eretz Yisrael, we're coming to the Eretz HaKodesh. What is it called? It's called Aliyah. The job of the Jew is to always strive upwards, to make an Aliyah. Yaakov Avinu, when he's born, he's named Yaakov because he comes from the Ekev, because he grabbed onto the Ekev of Eisav. What does the Ekev symbolize? The heel, it's the bottom part. He starts down below. His ladder starts down below, but it's always looking upward. Yaakov's all about, I want to make it up there. I know where I'm coming from. I'm not Eisav who thinks he's Asuri, that he's ready-made, he needs no spiritual growth. He already made it. No, Yaakov says, I know where my place is. I started the Ekev because my whole life is trying to go higher and higher and higher and to always be looking upward. We're taught this message for ourselves as well. We are the Bnei Yisrael, we're the Bnei Yaakov. We are taught from the moment that we're born that the job of the Jew is to try to become great, to try to grow, to try to go up. The Balaturim is an unbelievable remez. The Pasuk says, Mi ya'aleh lanu hashamayma. When we're talking about the importance of learning Torah or the importance of Teshuvah, depending on how you learn that Pasuk, who's going to go up to the heaven for us? Who's going to go up for us? Because ultimately Hashem says, I'm giving you the Torah, I'm not even going to make it that hard for you. But who's going to go up to the heaven? Mi ya'aleh lanu hashamayim, says the Balaturim. The first letters, Rashi Tevot, Mem Yod Lamed Hey, Milah. The Brit Milah, the concept of ascending, of going all the way up to the heavens, is the idea of the Milah, the Brit Milah. Because every single baby boy, what do we do right when he's born? We say, Zeh Katan Gadol Yiyeh. This small guy is going to become great. He's going to be awesome. We're going to go all the way up to the heavens. That's the Brit Milah, the symbol. Our goal is to do mitzvah after mitzvah from the moment that we're born to try to get as close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as possible. If we jump for a second back to the holiest place on earth, we go to the Beit HaMikdash, we go to the holiest spot, the Kodesh HaKodeshim, to the holiest part in the Kodesh HaKodeshim. We have the Aron Kodesh, the Aron, the ark that held the Torah, that held the Luchot. So Chazal tells us, the Gemara tells us, when you start counting all the measurements, how do you build the Beit HaMikdash? How wide, you notice that horizontally, there's no space for the Aron Kodesh. The Aron Kodesh was lamala min hamakom. It didn't have a spot, meaning it miraculously took up no horizontal space, because in the holiest spot in the Beit HaMikdash, it's only about the vertical. It's only about going up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The very top of the Aron, the very top of the ark, what do you have? You have the holy keruvim with their wings, with their knafayim that are spread open. They're spread open symbolically to teach us we're supposed to soar as high as we possibly can, just like the angels, just like the keruvim, just like the malachim. They want those wings to go as high as possible. That's the Aron. The Aron takes up no space horizontally because its goal is the wings, to go all the way up. Rabbi Zucker quotes a Rashi that says that the Aron had no legs. Why were there no legs to the Aron? There's no legs on it. There's no, the table has legs to the bottom of it. The other things, what's it called? The menorah has a stand to it on the bottom. But the Aron just sits there, no legs. Where are the raglayim to the Aron? He says, you know what? No, because the raglayim represents walking on the horizontal ground. That's not the goal of the Aron. The goal of the Aron is not to walk on this earth. The Aron, the Luchot, the Torah, its goal is to have wings. It doesn't need feet because it has wings, because it doesn't go horizontally. It goes vertically. It goes ascending up to the Shamayim. But then he notes, the Aron also has poles attached to it. And Chazal tell us that these poles were never removed. Even when it wasn't moving, the poles always stayed attached to the Aron. So he says, why are they always there? If they always stay attached, even when it's not moving, that means their main function wasn't for the carrying it. Because actually Chazal tell us, the Aron would carry its holders. The Aron would also be noseh. It would hold up whoever carries it. And a couple times in history, when people made the mistake and thought that they're carrying the Aron, ultimately it led to some tragedies. So what are the poles there for? He says the poles are there for us to grab on, because as that Aron is floating up to the Shamayim, as those mythical wings of the Kruvim are facing upwards, we have the chance to grab onto the Torah. We'll grab onto the Torah, we'll grab onto the Aron, we'll grab onto those poles, and then look to those wings to take us up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So too in the other parts of the Beit HaMikdash. The first korban that the Torah talks about is the korban olah. It's all about going up. Also, when the Torah starts speaking about the donations to the Mishkan, that parsha is called Parashat Terumah. Terumah is also a language of leharim, to be lifted up. When the Kohanim would start their service in the morning, they would be oleh on the ramp. It's all about the aliyah. On the holidays, we do aliyah la regel. We're going up to the Beit HaMikdash. In the Beit HaMikdash, when the place was packed, unbelievable Chazal, it says, Omdim tzfufim. In the holiday time, everybody would be right up against each other. There was nowhere to move. But then when they would bow down, revacha. They would bow down, there'd be space for everyone. One of the miracles of the Beit HaMikdash that took place, when the Jewish people would bow down, all of a sudden there's space. Says Rabbi Zucker beautifully. There's no physical horizontal in the Beit HaMikdash. So it's true, we're all standing upright to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So now we think, if we bow down, we now go horizontal, there's no space. Of course there's space, because horizontal is not part of the Beit HaMikdash. When we're bowing down to Hashem, when we hear the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Shem HaMeforash, we bow down, we're looking to go, we're bowing down, but really to go up. No problem. There's space for everybody. We spoke about parashat terumah, those donations to the Mishkan, but we also know we have the terumot to the Kohen. On those aliyah regals, when we come up with the tithes of our produce. Again, it's also called the terumah. We're uplifting it. We're bringing it to the Kohen. We're bringing it to Yerushalayim. We're saying that our physical labor, all the olam hazeh, we know it comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We understand that, and that's also the idea of the terumot. Eisav, says Rabbi Zucker, was an ish sadeh. The sadeh, the field, that's the horizontal. That's the Eisav, the conqueror. He wants the olam hazeh, he wants the land. While Yaakov is the ish tam yoshev ohalim. He sits in the tents. What do we know about a tent? A tent is temporary. Yaakov recognizes that his place in this physical world, it's only temporary. In our parasha, after he meets up with Eisav, Yaakov then goes to the city of Sukkot. Again, what is Sukkot? Yaakov is the symbol of Sukkot. It's the temporary building whose roof is the schach, openings up in the top. You look up at the ceiling, at the roof of this temporary dwelling. What do you see? You see the heavens. You see the stars. At the start of the parasha, Yaakov Avinu sends gifts to Eisav. He's saying, the olam hazeh, the physical, I don't want it. You take it. Take the physical. He says, im lavan garti. What is garti? Garti is a language of temporary. I'm temporarily in this world. And then Rashi tells us, what was he really hinting? He actually sent angels to give a message to Eisav. So Rashi says, what was that message? Im lavan garti v'taryag mitzvot shamarti. Garti and taryag, same letters. He says, my focus is Torah and mitzvot. I lived with Lavan temporarily. I'm temporary in this world. My goal is the mitzvot. My goal is the taryag. That's really what it's all about. And he sends this message via the angels. It's malachim. Here the Torah openly says, this is not like Midrashim. The Torah, the Pasuk says, he sent malachim. He says, I'm too busy trying to ascend the ladder to care for this physical world. I live with angels. And we know when he ultimately conquers Esav's angel, he becomes Yisrael, which is an angel name. Now, when Esav's angel attacks Yaakov, our parasha, he says, why does he attack him? Because he went back for the pachim ketanim. So at a certain point, the angel is saying, Allah, what are you going back for small vessels for? You're going back for olam hazeh? I thought you don't care about olam hazeh. So what do you care about these little tiny vessels for? But Yaakov's explaining to him, no, you don't have to understand. Pachim ketanim. We live in this world. Ultimately, we live in a world. Ultimately, Rivka tells him, you got to go get the bracha for the olam hazeh. You got to go steal Esav's bracha. You got to get the bechorah. But he says you have to understand what it is. It's ketanim. It's small. When it comes to physicality, it's small. It's not what's necessary. And we know the famous Dvar Torah when Yaakov and Eisav meet up. So Eisav says, Yeshli Rab, I have a lot. But Yaakov says, Yeshli Kol, I have everything. Ezu Asher Sameach Bechalko. So we say that some people learn the machloket is, Eisav says, I have a lot of olam hazeh. But if you have a lot, there's always room for more. But Yaakov says, Yeshli Kol, I recognize that I live in this world. And I appreciate living in this world. I even appreciate those pachim ketanim, even those small things. But I don't need more. I have all that I need. Ezu Asher Sameach Bechalko. Back to Rabbi Zucker. Rabbi Zucker says, and that's the idea of the avak. When he's wrestling this angel, the dust goes all the way up to Kisei HaKavod. The dust, which symbolizes the horizontal, the olam hazeh, the food of the nachash, the avak, the afar, the dirt, it goes up. Yaakov kicks it up from his low feet, all the way up to the shamayim. Yaakov makes the dust, the most physical of the physical, he makes it vertical. Like we said by the oil of Chanukah, we light the oil so that it goes all the way up. Make sure you hold that candle until the wick takes the oil and it goes all the way up. We have to remember that we're vertical, but what kind of vertical? Not vertical up going down. Our goal is down, going up. As I saw beautifully, he writes that the Greeks, why do we say Greece in Hebrew? We say Yavan. Yavan is Yud, Vav, Nun Sofit. The Yud, the Vav, Nun Sofit, they're all lines. But the Yud is a small line, the Vav is a middle length line, and the Nun Sofit is a long line. Yavan goes from the small line down, down, down. They're always facing down. So when it comes to spirituality, they're going down. But our avodah is to do the exact opposite. It's to go up. And that's why when Yaakov ultimately defeats this angel of Eisav, he gets the bracha. What's the bracha? You're going to have a new name. Your name is Yisrael. What does Yisrael stand for? Yisrael is the same letters as Yashar El, Yashar Kel, going straight to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yaakov understands, we the Jewish people, we are Bnei Yisrael, we are Am Yisrael, we have to understand that our mission is Yashar El, to go all the way straight up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to be those vertical yids, as Rabbi Zucker says, to look up to the Shamayim and say, Hashem, we're coming, that's our mission in life. Shabbat Shalom.